Fantastic. Okay. No one say anything that they don't want repeated on this call now that we're recording. Hi, everyone. My name is Zoe Goodhart. I'm a partner at TAG. For those who don't know us, we are a digital growth consultancy that spends our days and sometimes nights engineering the growth engines behind Australia's most disruptive brands. When I'm not at TAG, you'll find me guest lecturing at RMIT, where I spend a lot of time telling my students that marketing by hope is not a strategy. You can't scale a business on vibes and gut feel, and especially not in 2026. That brings us to today. We are here for 45 minutes on a masterclass on how Nala, and thank you to Phil for joining us today, has grown to a powerhouse brand. We aren't talking about hypothetical best practices. We're going to talk about the exact tech stack. So, with thanks to Klaviyo and Triple Whale, that the integration that bridges the gap between acquisition and lifetime value. So, as I said, I'm joined by Phil De Winter, co-founder of Nala, Adam Saunders from Triple Whale, and Edwina Yarovic from Klaviyo. Thanks, everybody. Okay, so let's start. I think let's give everybody some context here because context will be really helpful. Phil, Nala has completely disrupted a category, so much so that I had people stop me in change rooms, what are you wearing, right? Can you take us back to the start and what the void in the market, what was the void that you were trying to fill? And then also, what does business look like today in terms of size and what your mission is? There's a lot of questions there, so I'll let you take it.
Sure. So I'll take you back to the very, very start. Me and my wife, Chloe, who is co-founder of Nala, we were living in New York in 2020, and my sister was having a baby in Australia. So we came back home for a 2-week holiday. Um, and as we sort of you fly New York, LA, and we got to LA and the stock market had dropped about 5% because this thing called the coronavirus was apparently a thing. And then we got to Australia and the stock market had dropped another 5%. Anyway, my sister had the baby, which was great. And by the time she'd had the baby, the world had shut down. And we got stuck in Australia with a suitcase each and all our stuff in New York. And so, a couple of weeks go by, you sort of get by with the clothes that you have. And then it's like, all right, well, we need to fill our closets here. And my wife, Chloe, went shopping for some bras and undies because she didn't have enough. And went to the sort of usual department stores, which I think most women have had the experience of going shopping for. And just really couldn't find anything that kind of spoke to her modern set of values, I guess. And a lot of the brands on the floor were legacy brands that have been around for, decades and decades. And really there was almost no brands sort of established this century. And I think she kind of was looking for something that was comfortable and fun and sustainable, not super expensive, that just actually really practically worked and was comfortable and supportive. And she really couldn't find anything that kind of ticked all of those boxes. And we kind of thought there might be an opportunity and sort of sat idly on that idea for a while. And she actually was she was a Pilates and Pilates instructor and physiotherapist. And she, during COVID, built a big online Pilates business that when we sort of got serious about this idea, she had a database, I think, of a few thousand women that she could survey and ask questions to about the lingerie space. And it
I
came
remember
back,
that.
yeah,
I
and
remember
it came
that.
back
Yeah.
loud and clear that there were some gaps in the market. There were no wire-free bras out there that were actually supportive and actually did what they said they were going to do. People really struggled to find a strapless bra that was comfortable, particularly for bigger bust sizes. And off the back of that, we felt like, okay, there's this kind of brand gap and there's some product gaps, and we went for it, and we sort of spent a year working on Nala before we launched it, and then launched it in October 2022. And yeah, I've been really lucky that just sort of from day one it kind of hit. I think a lot of people in the early days came for the brand and felt that it was really different and spoke to a lot of their values that Chloe had and a lot of modern day consumers have. But then where probably the sort of superpower has been that people then buy the product and love the product, fall in love with the product, and come back and buy time and time again. And yeah, so we've kind of for the most part had a dreamy kind of first 3.5 years. Grown really quickly. We're now in New Zealand as well. We launched into David Jones recently. We just also went into our first new category, sports bras, which has gone really well. And yeah, I mean, without giving too much away, we now sell hundreds of thousands of bras a year, which is a super weird thing to say, but yeah, it's been an amazing journey, and very lucky to have gone on that, and with the support of a lot of the partners on this call. So excited to talk to you a little bit more about how we've done that.
Thanks. Okay, so let's talk about the all the tech that are on this call. Adam, like I know that there's a lot of confusion about attribution. I know that probably that wasn't even a term that people actively spoke about even a few years ago. So how does Triple Whale help brands see like the truth in in specifically their ad spend or perhaps Klaviyo, where like they might be missing the truth otherwise?
Yeah, thanks, Zoe. And amazing. I love hearing that story, Phil. I hadn't heard that before. That's beautiful. And what a nice thing to come out of a rough period with COVID. Um, yeah, when it comes to attribution, I do feel like for the last couple of years it's been a hot topic, and it's something that we discuss at length as well, Zoe, and the cost and the I really think of it for people that it's kind of a concept that they're trying to learn more about or get stuck into. It really is just understanding that customer journey a little bit more. And like nowadays, it's getting more and more complicated, that customer journey. Phil and the team at Nala are doing an amazing job at identifying, like going through that customer journey, all of the amazing Klaviyo flows that they do, as well as all of the other paid media that they invest in as well. So Triple Whale is a platform that helps us really unpick that entire customer journey, because other platform relying on in-platform metrics, whether you're looking in Meta, Klaviyo, and all these other platforms, it can get really, really confusing over attribution. People leaning towards just looking at the last click, when Phil and Tag and Klaviyo have done an amazing job at kind of looking at that whole customer journey. So we really help underpin that whole customer journey and help understand what we can do to really kind of get that growth and move the needle.
And I mean, I can see it in real life here in our office when, when our department heads will be like, "No, that was mine," and then like, have you seen those viral clips about marketing teams? It's like, "No, that was mine. No, that was mine."
Me,
Me,
yeah.
me. It's all me. It's all me. And it's nice when like, I mean, either way, it makes the brand money, right? But it's where to invest your time. Phil, like, how is like seeing like a single source of truth changed the way that you and your team make decisions every week?
Yeah, so I'll probably we launched Triple Whale in October of last year, and um, probably like we had two sort of key problems. One was like the over attribution problem that Adam just mentioned, where every platform, if I added up every dollar that every platform said that we were making,
Yeah.
we'd be a much more successful business than we actually are. Um, and so that was the first problem. And then the second problem that we kind of had was that Meta had such a lion's share of our ad spend wallet. I think we were sort of up around 85% of our ad spend was with Meta. Is that even if we were to increase Google by 10% or Pinterest by 10% or one of the other platforms, it was really hard to know how much of an impact that was actually having, because like really like a 10% increase there is actually like probably like less than 1% of your daily budget on Meta. And so to know the impact that that's had was almost impossible. And so we launched it in October, and I'd say that I probably refresh Triple Whale in November about 25 times a day. And like really throughout Black Friday, it was yeah, a absolute asset to have, and always. But that first month, really, we learned very quickly that having that sort of single source of truth, where all platforms were being attributed the same way, we could very quickly make spend allocation decisions, and we were changing budgets, multiple times a day, every day for a whole month. And yeah, it definitely was a big factor in us having our record month by a significant kind of way. So yeah, we continue to use it, maybe not 25 times a day in business as usual days, but I'd say that I'm still logging into Triple Whale a handful of times a day, and seeing, okay, what's working, what's not. And me and Michelle, who sort of leads our paid marketing and our paid marketing agency, we also are all in Triple Whale all the time, just making sure that things are trending in the direction that we want it to be.
Phil, could I ask you a question on that? First of all, love that, and I'm so glad that I think experimentation is so important, especially with to find new customers and penetrate them, and Tag do a great job when it comes to supporting with you guys, like with their CRO journey, they can take you down as well. I was just wondering though, you mentioned attribution models. What are some of your attribution models that you go to first, or maybe second, on Triple Whale that help you unpack the data and help you understand what's working?
We use probably all of them, to be honest, because I don't think
Wow.
you can base your decisions on using one. So first click, last click are, obvious ones, and then triple attribution we find kind of helpful just to kind of give everyone a bit of like like an even playing field. And so yeah, we'll every day we're looking at multiple attribution models. And I'll also just say like the two other features that are really helpful is like one, just having a dashboard with all your marketing spend in one spot. Like it sounds super simple, but like it saves you from having to click around five different, tabs and have a spreadsheet. And so that's super helpful. And then yeah, the AI capabilities like Moby is really powerful. And like any AI, it's not perfect and like it doesn't necessarily give you the perfect answer, but it generally points you in the right direction. You can be like, okay, I've asked it this question. It's pointed me here. Sure, like, I might change a bit of the recommendations based on what I know, and AI never knows everything. But it really points you often in the right direction of uncovering sort of certain strategies or tactics that you should be taking in your media buying strategy.
Cool. Um, Phil, the I know that one of the things that you didn't mention there was the sonar send, and I had a look just before about whether about because I when I speak to founders or heads of ecom, and when we suggest that they get triple whale, they often say, "Oh no, God, I have to pay for another tool." Right? Like that's often the thing. Like by the time you're running a website, you've got like thousands of different things connected, and your subscriptions are like through the roof. Um, but I can see that actually just that component, Sonar Send, has paid for itself and then some with
Yeah.
your subscription.
Yeah, so I think I looked at this yesterday as well. So just for people context, like Sonar is essentially like a pixel that you put on your website, and then it adds more people into your abandoned flow, abandoned cart, abandoned journeys. And so, you know, Klaviyo has a pixel and Shopify have a pixel, but this sort of gives you even an increased level of data. And I think roughly since we launched in October, we've generated about $100,000 of revenue from that pixel. You know,
Yeah,
again, I don't know if like all of that is 100% incremental, but definitely even if half of it was incremental, it's
so
paid for the subscription. So
yeah,
it's a very very helpful feature and definitely, as you said, helps pay for the service or the product.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But don't worry, we won't put your price up if you're saying that. It's all good, mate.
Gonna be asking for a discount after this. What are you talking about?
No, but that's a look. It's with Sonar Send, we're a preferred Klaviyo partner. We take great pride in the work we do with Klaviyo. So jump on the Klaviyo marketplace. You'll see Triple Well next to the likes of Shopify up there, and it's because how we can enrich those flows and provide that really strong ROI on Triple Well investment. So that's why this is it's, such a this exciting partnership, Triple Well and Klaviyo, and Sonar Send is just one of those pieces. So it's so good to see you guys utilizing that, Phil.
Yeah, it's
What
great.
this is a question for Adam and for Edwina, and then we'll see whether or not Phil agrees. But um, what are the key metrics do you think, like let's say top two or three, that your heads of ecom or whatever job title should be obsessing over? Adam, we'll go to you first.
Oh, okay. I Look, every business is different and it depends where they're at with their journey. If you're a new business looking for, if you're in your infancy and you're looking for growth and revenue, then it's obvious like we're looking those are the kind of numbers we're looking at. We're looking at year on year growth and revenue. A lot of businesses are shifting away from ROAS, which is interesting, and looking at MER models, which are so I would say those, but look, it's in a market whereby it's beginning to get harder and harder for us to find customers. I do think like cost per acquisition and stuff like that is one that we should be keeping an eye on because we can often spend a lot of money acquiring customers, but so keeping that down and focusing on retention and using amazing tools like Klaviyo is really helpful for that. But Edwina would be better to talk through the some of those ones. So once the customer's on board, I'm sure.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Adam. I think the top three key metrics, I'm going to keep it really basic, would be like, your open rates, your click rates, and deliverability, specifically within Klaviyo, with focusing mainly on the email side of things. But yeah, it depends on how the brand, like what the outcome is and what they're wanting to track.
Phil, do you agree with Edwina and Adam?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just tell you the metrics that we look at kind of religiously every single day. So sales, MER is like something we constantly are looking at, and then yeah, our gross profit margins, which if sort of our MER and gross profit margins are holding steady, like our contribution profit's going to be pretty predictable, and they're the sort of key numbers that if yeah all those things are in check, then we're sort of we're pretty comfortable with how things are moving. Obviously, there are a million metrics below those that kind of build up. I think probably the one that I think as we've matured as a business, also very cognizant of is just new customer acquisition costs as well and new customer ROAS. And we know we can bring in our existing customers and getting them to repeat purchase, but how are we finding new customers? What's it costing us? And how can we do that more efficiently is constantly the front of mind.
Can I ask Phil what you mentioned about experimentation before and shifting away from, well, diversifying from Meta. What other platforms have you found from a cost per acquisition, well, have been healthy to that cost per acquisition metric that you keep an eye on?
Yeah, so Google's kind of second share of wallet, but to be honest, we struggled to scale Google for some of the reasons I just mentioned before, pre-launching Triple Whale, and we've probably been able to double our Google spend in the last 6 months based on the data we get from Triple Whale. Um, then we sort of have a little bit of spend with Pinterest, a decent amount of spend with TikTok, and then during like promotional periods, like we're actually on sale at the moment for our first sale of the year, and we're using Axon AppLovin. So that's like where they serve ads in like Candy Crush and a lot of games that people play. We find that like when you've got like an offer to give, that is quite an effective platform. We haven't quite figured out BAU on that platform yet, but that's only been available in Australia, I think, since like maybe August, September last year. So there are a lot of people not on that one, but it's definitely worthwhile, particularly during promotional periods.
Phil, this is not particularly like a digital question, but you've also been doing out of home in the last year more so. What does like how did you make that decision?
Yeah, I think like we've got to a point now where like we know that we can still grow our digital spend and grow the business that way, but it's probably getting to a point of diminishing returns a little bit. And so we need to diversify our marketing mix. And there's obviously all these traditional advertising streams that like ecom businesses sometimes forget about. And so we've definitely started dabbling a little bit more in that. We're such a visual brand, where like so much of the brand values is kind of shown through imagery, and so being able to show that to people en masse is definitely something that we're going to explore more and more. I wish there was a triple whale for out of home media. There's not, so it is a little bit harder to track. But yeah, you've got to make that plunge at some point.
Yeah, I'm actually a big fan of out of home for the right brand. I think it makes an enormous difference to like that mental availability. Okay, so let's go back to Klaviyo for a second. Edwina, we're seeing like Tag has been working with Nala since the very beginning on Klaviyo, and our team, led by Bridie McDonald here, does a phenomenal job from Tag's end. Shout out to Bridie. Beyond, we see like roughly about 29% of sales come from automated flows. Beyond the standard like welcome series, what sophisticated flows is other brands using that we use that you could promote or suggest to other brands that are listening on this call?
Yeah, I'm definitely Zoe. So I work with a lot of customers here at Klaviyo, and the biggest thing that I see is that a lot of them stop at the basics. So they leave a lot of revenue sitting on the table. And I think what sets Nala apart specifically is that they go beyond the clicks and they actually really think about the customer's real life. So I have two examples of, what they're doing really well. The first one I would say is the life stage flow. So this particular flow, as you know, Nala sells, intimates like bras and maternity products. So they've built this flow where when, someone buys a maternity product, it will wait 365 days and then it will send a follow-up email, saying, hey, mama, because at this point the baby is one and the mum's ready to transition back to her regular bras. So it lands exactly at the right time, at the right place. And I feel like most brands don't really think that far ahead. And to be honest, I've just returned from maternity leave, and if I had received an email like that, I would say that's super personalized and would definitely have clicked into it and purchased something. But yeah, I do feel like that's really what separates it from like a good to great email. The second thing that I think Nala does really well is this other flow that they've set up regarding like size-based flows. So specifically when someone buys a bra, they'll wait 60 days later, and obviously that information is stored in their profile within Klaviyo, like what cup size that was. And then within that flow, it will then route them on a different journey based on that purchase. So it's still one flow, but customers get a more personalized, different messaging, different tones, different product recommendations based on what they did purchase in their cup size. So it's like looking at one flow, doing instead of making four flows in one. I feel like that's what really makes Nala stand out.
Yeah, I mean, we test all of this internally here, and particularly amongst the women of the team, we're always testing whether or not our journey sequencing is the right one. So like you hear calling out, okay, I got the G cup, right? And like they're screaming in the office. So it's like it actually makes for a fun game, if that's your thing. Um,
People don't know this, but Zoe's actually one of our most loyal test wearers. So whenever we're like developing a new product, we'll often get Zoe to try them on, and I'm not part of that process, but she gives us very detailed feedback, and
Very
the product
detailed.
team are very appreciative.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you're welcome. Um, Yeah, yeah. I was actually, as Phil said before, they went into
She
another
doesn't
category.
charge for that either, which,
No, I don't.
Whoa.
I don't. But you see like chaotic images of me, like because was the test wearer for sport, um, over the past year, and there's like I've got like videos of me like running around the park, like holding my phone, going, "Yep, I think this is one's right. I think you nailed it." Yeah. So
That'd be
it's
some
really.
great user-generated content there.
Yeah, no, I'm shocked they haven't used any of my content
you told
actually.
us that your husband wouldn't allow it. We wanted to.
See, maybe if this career in marketing and agency doesn't suit me, I'll just become an influencer. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so the with regards to all the flows, right? There's an absolute shitload. I think there's like 80 plus flows we've got for Nala. Like, is there feel like do you find that there's any friction with regards to maintaining like brand voice when you're working at that scale?
Yeah, it's definitely hard. I think like credit to you guys at Tag, like you've done an amazing job of taking our brand voice and like whenever you guys write some copy for us, like people wouldn't know that it hasn't come from someone that works at Nala. And yeah, I think you've been great custodians of the brand and have made that a lot easier. But sure, there are times that like an email will land in someone's inbox and someone in the team, and I'll get an email from them being like, "Hey, not sure about this or not sure about that," and like that's natural. That would happen if we were doing the emails ourselves, right? And but I think for 99 times out of 100, like we've been able to maintain that brand DNA, which has been amazing. And I think like, brand Nala does have a very distinct tone of voice. And so we are very particular about making sure that we adhere to those like standards. Just I wanted to just quickly jump back to something that Edwina was talking about, and like the flows that have been effective and things like that. One flow that like I was sitting around a table with like I don't know half a dozen other business owners the other week, and we were talking about different flows, and this was one that everyone was like, "Oh, that's a really good idea. We should do that." So I just want to share it with everyone because that might be something that is very practical that people can use. Is like obviously we don't want like we want to drive people to our website to make purchases as much as possible, but if someone hasn't purchased for a long time, or if someone like let's say has refunded on an item because they couldn't get the fit right or whatever, we actually have flows set up that drive people to our wholesale partners or retail partners. So, like for example, let's say someone refunds a product, they'll get an email being like, "So sorry that this didn't work for you. Just so you know, you can go try on bras at David Jones." And it's a really good way to like fuel your wholesale business without sort of jeopardizing your ecom business. Makes your retail partners very happy that you're driving traffic into stores. And so, if there are people that are kind of doing omni-channel on this call, I think it's a really easy, quick win. Or if someone hasn't purchased for a year or whatever you define as a churn, hey guys, did you know we're stocked in David Jones or wherever it is? And yeah, again, Tag did a great job building that out and coming up with that strategy. But I think it's a really good one that's pretty easy to set up.
Yeah, that's a really cool flow idea, actually, Phil. How do you track success on that, though?
We can't. But like all I can say is like our partners are really happy and like constantly say that we drive a lot of traffic into store. And so again, yeah, and we do, we have merchandisers on the floor and in David Jones where people will often come in and say, tried to buy online, didn't fit me, so I've come in and so we I guess hear it anecdotally rather than uh with data to back it up.
Yeah.
The brand voice thing is really interesting. One of the other brands that we work for is actually a hospitality group, and we do we do they're not on Klaviyo, but they're on a different tool, but we use SMS strategy. So during the comedy festival right in Melbourne, we suggested to them, and they have a really fun and cheeky brand voice too, and we suggested to them that we send an SMS saying time for a quickie question mark, and then leaving space and then booking with their 7 rooms link. Anyway, obviously that went really well, yeah. And we were able to track whether or not that was actually successful because we limited that marketing exercise to SMS only, right? But we got out of the entire database in the hundreds of thousands, we got one angry message back saying, like with a screenshot, "Come on, guys, I was out with my friends and they saw that, and I'm so embarrassed." And I loved that feedback. I was like,
That's so
"Oh,
cool.
it's working." Anyway, super fun.
Speaking our language, we live in that world of making a very small minority upset.
Yeah, yeah, seriously. Um, okay, so in terms of like, with Phil, like with Nala, if you were starting tomorrow, is there anything that you would change about your tech stack? Do faster, do slower? Um, any other overall learnings that you would take into your next business, perhaps?
Yeah, I think probably don't overcomplicate it. Like there are some market leaders out there that do things really well, and like sometimes I think you can try and get a little bit too cute with these kind of things. Like Shopify build really good websites, Klaviyo send really good emails, Triple Whale attribute really good data. Like you don't need to go shopping so much. And I think the only other thing I'd maybe add to that is like, and we've probably learned this lesson a little bit the hard way recently, is like layering on tech after tech after tech can actually create more complexity and more issues than actually it helps. And so go with the big guys that do have a lot of capabilities, keep it really condensed, and not super fragmented. And I think like that way you can just protect having too much tech debt, which yeah, I think can kind of creep up on you without you realizing it. Yeah.
Adam, what and Edwina, like you've been around like this industry for a very, very long time, both of you. Um, what would you recommend to brands in terms of tech or any takeaways that you think would be beneficial for them listening today?
I would say in terms of tech, making sure you're working with partners that integrate really well with each other and have really good communication with each other. So that way, there's always going to be new things that are coming out, and you're going to be staying on top of mind and sharing all this knowledge together.
It's that's often, I think, underestimated, the communication part. Like I find that on behalf of our brands, when there is an issue, and obviously issues arise, you can't help it, that's life. It's it's I love it being able to call somebody that I actually know, and not just a hotline. It does speed things up a lot. Adam, what would you say?
Yeah, I think I'm going to lean in here and talk about people like Nala and people who are getting the most out of Triple Well. And there's a couple of common trends when people are absolutely crushing it and having the amazing growth that Nala have. They are using the platform a lot. Like Phil mentioned, what was it 25 times a day initially, and utilizing it regularly. Oh, but resources are thin. So how do you actually do that really effectively when you do have other tools and constant campaigns and things going on? Quite often it's setting it up early and using, and I know we've done quite well not to let this conversation be dominated by AI, but using tools like Moby, and because even AI 2 months ago is different to how it was today, with updates to the platforms that are powering the AI in Triple Whale and powering the new amazing AI that they've got in Klaviyo as well. So getting the foundation set with AI, but I'd also say using an agency. There is a common trend with people that are getting the most out of Triple Whale. They're working with an amazing agency like a Tag to get the most out of it, to advise them and make sure and be like, let me run point here on, hey, let's actually just make sure we're looking at these metrics together, like looking at the same hymn sheet here. So my two things there is like use it. If you're paying for it, use it, get stuck into it, use all the bells and whistles in there. It blows my mind that people that use Triple Whale are like, oh, we didn't know about Sonar Send, and we've been using Klaviyo, and they might be using another tool, or not even have turned it on. Or we didn't know about this Moby thing. We've been using Claude and plugging it into Chat GPT. So working with an agency to enable all of that and getting the most out of the tools.
Yeah, I think that's probably much more common than everyone thinks, because you start using just one part of it and not realizing that there are all these other aspects to it. And also, I think from what my point of view, what we see with our brands is that people, they onboard a new tech, but every piece of technology in the past like few years, everyone has um they've blossomed into other categories within their own tech. So the tech is constantly evolving, and the brands aren't keeping up with it. So, I encourage everyone to like sit and have a look around, right? Explore. Um, Phil, what's the next big milestone for Nala? What's on the product roadmap? What can you tell us?
Yeah, so the next big milestone, I think we're probably very interested in other markets. Like we've done a really great job here in Australia and New Zealand, and like definitely that will always be sort of our core focus. But feel like it's time to spread our wings a little bit, and so for us, that's a big undertaking. Bras have thousands and thousands of SKUs when you sort of go across our range, and at our price point, it's not something that we can do shipping from Australia into the other major global markets. So there's a big sort of, I guess, investment piece, and then also just logistics piece in making that happen. But it's something that in the second half of this year will be a big focus of ours, probably for a first half of next year launch. Yeah, we are definitely sort of very active in looking into how we can sort of spread our wings into new markets.
What's been the most sort of unexpected part of your whole journey?
Do you mean on a personal level or on a brand level?
Both, but it's both. I mean, you work with your wife every day, so I
Yeah.
suspect that personal and professional sort of get blurred 30,000 million times a day. Like, what's
Yeah,
been unexpected?
I think like on a personal level, like, and I think everyone feels this no matter what, but like trying to just find that balance, like, the first 3.5 years of Nala probably spent a lot of time working and like deliberately, and there was a big opportunity in front of us, and we wanted to make sure that Nala worked. And I think we've kind of come out at the other side of that to a degree. Like Nala is a legitimate business these days, and it's not just a startup anymore, and that's great. And then you sort of go, okay, well, can't keep working like that forever, so like let's try and find a bit more balance, and then maybe sometimes you can overcorrect and then try and find too much balance. So just constantly looking for that perfect, I guess, work-life balance is on a personal level, maybe something I didn't expect. On a from a business perspective, honestly, never expected it to be like, I think we always believed in the idea and believed in the business and the brand and the products um, but probably never thought we'd get to the point that we have so quickly, which has been amazing. But yeah, just sort of has all happened quite quickly, and there's been a lot of momentum, and I guess that kind of just compounds over time. And again, like we're sort of see what heaps of opportunity and heaps to learn. Don't get me wrong, but to sort of be here 3.5 years in and be in the spot we are, I think is something that we're really proud of.
That's so cool. How often do you talk about Nala at the dinner table?
So we've got a rule. The rule is outside of work hours, you always have to ask the other person if we can talk about work. So, like, let's say we're sitting at dinner with our 2-year-old, or we're out on date night, or whatever it is, lying in bed. Like, we'll never actually just bring up work randomly, which I think has kept our marriage pretty intact. We
Love that.
honestly have only ever had one work-related argument in 3.5 years, and I think it was the week we launched the business. So we've really managed to make it not impact our relationship too much, which has been really good. And I think we've just got like really defined roles in the business now where we sort of don't overlap a huge amount, which is probably again healthy for the marriage.
That's so cool. Well, thank you to everybody. I really appreciate everyone's time today. Unless anyone on the panel has more questions for Phil, I think we can wrap
I've
it up.
won.
Oh, you have
Where
one.
did it,
Go for
I
it.
got one. Where did the name Nala come from, Phil?
I recently got told our answer to this was not good enough and we needed to come up with a PR story.
Okay.
But I'll give you the true answer. So we were actually going to name the business Jungle. And before we'd sort of like gone down that journey, we'd had some legal advice that would be fine from a trademark perspective. And so we spent quite a bit of money developing the brand and tone of voice, visual identity. And it was all very jungle themed. And then we got rejected at the trademark office twice. And it was like at the point where we were literally about to print the brand name on like the garments. And so we had like 2 weeks to like come up with a name. And so we wanted to come up with something that was sort of very true to that jungle theme. And Nala, obviously, the Lion King, Queen of the Jungle, and spoke to so many of the brand values and is fierce and strong and all these kind of things that the Nala brand is. Felt like a really good fit. And so we went down that path. And to be honest, like in hindsight, I think it was actually a really good thing. I think Nala is a better name than Jungle. So it worked out for the best, but it was a very stressful couple of weeks trying to come up with a name. You're like looking at like light poles and you're like, can we name it Pole? I don't know. Like you just like look at everything and like you're trying looking for inspiration everywhere. And like, eventually, Nala was the right answer.
I think so. I can't imagine my wife saying, "I'm just going to put my jungle bra on." Like, it sounds Nala sounds cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you to everybody. This has been recorded, so if you've subscribed, then this will be sent to you. And if you want to speak to any of us ever, then you know where to find us on LinkedIn, all the socials. And I'm sure Phil will be very giving of his time if anyone has any questions specifically for him. And I hope everyone has a wonderful day. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks, Zoe.
Cheers.
Bye. Thanks.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.